Okay, so let's say you're given a vertex of 2, 8, and then you just know enough that that's the x, and so you write this for the axis of symmetry. That is right, and that's just awesome and easy if you know the vertex. But what if you don't know the vertex? Y equals x squared minus 3x plus 4. That's got a vertex too, but how the heck do you figure it out? I told you a way yesterday. In fact, I told you 2 ways. My best advice would be either make an XY chart and you have to look up a whole bunch of points until you find the lowest one. That works. Or you could say x equals some little formula that involved b. Does anybody remember the little formula that involved b? Hallie, you are correct. Everybody write that down. I'm going to make it more like, it's not just a tip, it's way better than trying to find it by finding the lowest point. Okay, that's just kind of like a caveman way to do it. Anybody could do it. You keep picking points like, see if 0 is the lowest point. See if 1 is the lowest point. You just keep on graphing them all and find the lowest one. That works, but this way, so much better. All right, in this case, that would be negative of -3. Yeah, you have to handle 2 negatives. Over 2a, and what's the a term here? It's 1. There's no number there, there's a 1 there. So 2 times 1. So then negative gets changed to regular 3, and 2 times 1 is 2. That is x. Notice I started with x. So x equals 3 over 2. That's how you can tell what the axis of symmetry is, and that's how you can tell what the first part of the vertex is. Because these are always the same as each other. Do you get what just happened there? I did negative b over 2a, which is negative that over 2 times that, and it gave me 3 over 2. All right, so I'm going to give you another equation. Y equals x squared plus 2x minus, no, make it plus 3. No, minus 3, sorry, minus 3. I'd like you to tell me a few things. I'd like to know the vertex. I'd like to know the y-intercept. I'd like you to factor it if you can. Now, some of you are going to be good at that. Some of you aren't. I'm kind of getting you ready for next chapter. That's what we decided to do. I thought we were going to do the factoring in this chapter, but there's a group of 7 teachers that teach this class, and the decision was made, we're going to do factoring all in its own chapter, which is coming up after this chapter. So if you learned this already, cool, you're ahead. All right, so the vertex, we just said that little formula. EJ, what was the little formula again?
Like negative b over a.
2a. You had an a in it, but 2a. Negative b over 2a. So, Stella, what's negative b then? I'll give you a hint. This is a. Then you get b, and then the third one's c. So, what's b? All right, too much pressure. I'll come back to you on a different question, though, because I don't want you to think that, if I just ignore him, he'll go away. So, this is A, this is B, and this is C. All right, so Jack, negative B?
Negative 2.
Negative 2, yes. Because negative and the B is 2. Over 2A. Stella, pick up the 2A part. What's the A? It's the number in front of that. Yep. So this is the A, and that's the B, and that's the C. All right, so then I got negative 2 over 2, which simplifies to negative 1. And yay, I've got x equals negative 1. That tells me the x of the vertex. It also tells me the axis of symmetry. But if it only tells me the x of the vertex, that's definitely the hardest thing we do, is if I know that this is -1, what's the rest of the point? Well, then you go to your XY chart. I want you to make me a big XY chart, and one of the numbers has to be -1, you know, because we just figured out that's the lowest one. So -1 goes in there, and let's have you also put in 0, and let's have you also put in regular 1. And get those 3 points. When you put in -1, and you put in 0, and you put in 1. This is our equation with the little black arrows up here. There's A, B, and C. All right. This is covering pretty much everything that's on your test, but if there's parts you're not getting, you need to raise your hand and go, wait a minute, how did you get that? Then you'll actually learn it. Okay, so we figured out the -1 here, right here. We figured that out from this little formula, negative b over 2a. Otherwise, we could have just picked random points and then figured out which was lowest. All right, now we're going to take that -1 right here, and we're going to stick it into the equation, which is back here. That equation, we need to stick a -1 in there. So now I'm going to go 1 times -1 squared plus 2 times -1, and then minus 3. Simplifying that down, I'll have that. Kennedy? Is that a phone? Okay, put it away. And please don't make me talk to you about that again. Let's go over to Liv. When you simplified this down, what did you get for an answer? And I'll check if you're right. -4. Did anybody else get -4? Yes? There's not many people saying yes. Okay, I'll double check it here. This is 1 times -1 squared is 1. And this is -2. And then this is -3. All right, so this is +1. And this is -5. -5 and +1 does make -4. She was right. Good job. All right. Kennedy, put 0 into the equation and tell me what you get. You can do it in your head probably pretty easy. Yep, -3. And now look, this one seems like it's the lowest one. We could have known that because we used the -b over 2a trick to know that that was going to be the lowest one. All right, now let's put in regular 1. In this equation, we're now putting regular 1 in. Regular 1 goes here and here. And now I'm going to get 1. And 2 makes 3. 3 minus 3 makes 0. Who else had 0? Raise your hand if you did. Okay, good. I think you're catching on. Now, if I graph all these points, guess what? It's going to be a parabola because they're all parabolas. That's the whole point. This whole unit is called quadratics. So if I graph this, 0, -3 is not the lowest spot. The lowest spot was here at -1, -4. So I go down like that, and then I would have 1, 0. Go over 1 and up 0. Oh, wait, not there. There. And to me, that doesn't look like a parabola. Well, I know this is the lowest spot, so now I should probably do something to the left of that, like at -2. Would everybody please put in -2? Put -2 into the equation. It's right here. -2 going in right here. Raise your hand when you are done. Okay. Wait a little longer and I'm going to call on a random person. Put negative 2 in the equation. To prove it's random, I'll use dice. If you don't know, I'll just walk you through it. But you don't get out of it. Here is row 4. Last person. Quinn. What did you get when you put in a negative 2? You put in the equation, you put in a negative 2. And what'd you get? I heard where. Maybe you said the answer already and I haven't heard it. I'm old and I can't hear well. You don't know which equation? This equation right here, putting in a negative 2. What do you think you get?
-3.
Yes, you are correct. Who had a negative 3? All right. If you're not getting those, then you're missing something really important, and that's going to hurt a lot on this test. You got to find points like over and over and over. So if you're not getting that, make sure you come up and ask when we have individual help time. All right. So here's negative 2 comma negative 3, and that's right here. And look, my parabola just went around the corner, and it's starting to go up again. And I bet you if I got negative 3, I'd really know exactly where the rest of this parabola is. So let's everybody put in negative 3 now into the same equation. Y equals x squared plus 2x minus 3, and you're putting in negative 3 now. Putting in negative 3. Here it is. You just got to work this out. Carl, what did you get?
0.
And I'm double checking you. This is 9 minus 6 minus 3. 0 is correct. Nice job. Okay, I think you're getting the idea. So I'm going to put my last dot on my graph. It makes sense for where my parabola was going. Yay, I win. I've got enough dots on there. I got a chart that goes with it. And this was the vertex down here. And it was at negative 1 comma negative 4. You could have gotten that just by figuring out which is the lowest point. See, negative 4 is the lowest it ever went. You could have got that with negative b over 2a. And that gives you x. Memorize this one. It'll save you a lot of hunting and guessing and checking, because you can know which one's going to be lowest. It also tells you the axis of symmetry. If you can just find B and A, which are this part's B and this part is A. And if there's no number there, you put a 1. Okay. That's a summary of pretty much all the hardest stuff. There's a lot of really easy stuff. Like if I give you a picture and you can't tell me which of these is the vertex, I'd be really sad. Well, it's that one. And if it's at 7 comma 1, you'd also be expected to know what's the axis of symmetry. Would everybody write that down? If this is my parabola, what's the axis of symmetry for it? Isn't it really easy? Yes, it is. But I'm going to ask you a couple more questions about it. Who out there was knowing it was x equals 7? Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, good. Thank you. Then, what if I told you I need the equation for that? A lot of people would struggle with this, but some of you might remember it looks kind of like this, and then it has a couple numbers right here and here. Write that equation out for the vertex form. I've got the vertex right there. So you should be able to put them in there and tell me what the equation is. Jackson, what do you think? There's going to be a 7 in there somewhere. Do I just say 7? Like a 7 right there? Oh, a -7. Okay, a -7 like this. You are onto something because you used the opposite of this, because it's always the opposite of what you would think. So nice job. And then how about the other part? +1, because you use the same thing as you would think. It says 1 and you use 1. Okay, good job. Now, what if this thing was upside down? What would be different? If this thing was upside down, then... Yes? There'd be a negative in front. This is called the A term. If I put a -1 up there, and I just said A was -1, the whole thing would have to flip over. You guys remember that? That's the A term, and if the A is negative, it flips over. The way it is right now, that's called a minimum. But if I make it negative, you get a max. So if I make it negative, then my parabola flips over. It's still got the same point right here at 7,1, but the thing's upside down now if I put a negative in front. And now it has a maximum. All right. That's pretty much it. Man, I feel like we should probably test tomorrow, but I just think too many kids would probably do bad, and then I'd feel bad that I tested them too early. So I feel like you're going to do fine on this. So let's start the homework. We'll get to lunch before, and then all you have to do after lunch is basically I'm going to call kids up and make sure one-on-one that you're understanding stuff. Okay, so I'm going to talk more one-on-one. You're going to have lots of work time today, except for when I call you up. You can also come up, but I'm going to try to get to every single kid after the hour. That means I'm going to have only about a minute per kid. But after we go to lunch, I'm going to try to talk to everybody once, either because you walked up or because I call you up and see, like, here's a question, do you know how to do it? I want to make sure everybody's getting one-on-one help. All right, so I'd like you to find the worksheet for today. And I noticed that there was 4 problems on it, and I realized that the best one to skip would be problem number 2. Okay, so everybody cross off problem 2, and that keeps it more reasonable in size. Am I saying it's impossible to do number 2? No, it's a perfectly normal, easy problem. If you want to do it for practice, go ahead. But number 2 is skippable. But let's do number 1. EJ, would you read me the first problem?
F of x equals 3x to the second minus 12x plus 10.
Okay, awesome. Now, what do they want to know? If they want the y-intercept, it's right there. That's super easy. But they probably want something more complicated, like the vertex.
Yeah, the vertex.
They want the vertex?
Axis of symmetry.
Okay, hold on. Vertex and the axis of symmetry, those kind of go together. So let's do those parts first. There's 2 kinds of kids right now. The kids that know the equation you're supposed to use for this, that little secret B thing that I told you. And there's those that already have forgotten it. Ian, A, which one are you? The kind who remembers that formula? Kind who forgot that formula?
I don't know. Minus negative b
Negative B.
over 2a.
Yes. That'll give you the x of the vertex. So let's do it. Kennedy, what is negative B? That's B. B is negative 12. So what's negative B? Yes. You could say negative of negative 12. So that makes 12. Over 2a. Grace, what's 2a going to be?
2 and then in parentheses 3.
Perfect. And then that gives me 12 over 2 times 3 is 6. And then that gives me 2. So x is 2. What does x equals 2 look like? That looks like the axis of symmetry to me. And then if I want the vertex, it's 2 comma something. Oh, whatever will I do? You make an xy chart. Isn't the end of this question, EJ, isn't it to graph it? Like, do you have to graph it eventually? So then you may as well make an xy chart. And we now know that 2 is the most important point on there because it's the vertex. So everybody take 2, stick it in the equation. And that's one of the many points that you should find. From my experience on the tests, we usually are going to say you have to have 5 points listed on your chart. 5 different things. So 2 is one of them. So this will be 4 times 3 is 12. minus 24. And you're going to see this weird thing where this number and this number, one of them is always double the other one, and the opposite, every single time. It's a weird thing about your parabolas is this number that you find and this number that you find, it's going to be double and opposite. So just kind of get used to that pattern. And then I got to add 10. And then 12 and 10 makes 22 minus 24. Who had negative 2? Because you were right. Good job. Negative 2 was it. 2 negative 2 is one of many points that you should find. And it is special because it's the vertex. Now, what if they wanted this equation in vertex form? I don't even know if they asked that, but here's what you do. You just go x minus 2, because of that, squared, and then you drop that at the end. That's the equation in vertex form. Once you know the vertex, that's really easy to do. Unless the parabola is upside down. Was there a negative in front of this thing? No. If there was a negative in front, I'd want to put a negative in front, but there wasn't. So, all right, I think we'll finish this after lunch. Okay, so we're back from lunch. And when we left, we were doing the first problem, and I was giving you some hints. One person asked right before everybody left, what is this pattern of change thing? That's just where you put the X and the Y chart. And if I were you, I'd kind of do it in the margin because I think XY charts go better up and down. But you can cross off pattern of change and just do an XY chart. You'll have to do that. You'll have to make an XY chart on the test. Because that's what pattern of change is. It's just we put in this number, we get that answer. It's not a great name for it, but you'll have to make an XY chart on the test, that's for sure. But you won't have to answer any other questions about pattern of change besides what are the numbers that go in the XY chart. Okay, so let's move on. Question 2 is probably a little too easy. That's why I crossed it off. If I was going to pick anything to cross off, that one's kind of like a repeat of problem 3. Would everybody please move to problem 3? Even if you're not done with number 1, just go to number 3 now because it is different. Grace, would you read me number 3? It's in factored form.
fx equals -3, and then in parentheses, x plus 1, then another pair of parentheses, x plus 3.
Thank you. Once again, the vertex will be the hardest thing to find. So, to do that though, I need to be able to get this all multiplied out. Like we need to know where that vertex is, so we need to know negative b over 2a, and I can't tell what a, b, and c are. I'm a math teacher. I can't even tell what a, b, and c are from looking at this. I got to multiply it all the way out. All right, so step 1, everybody please multiply that part out, and then we'll multiply everything by -3. So x times x makes x squared. And remember the outside-inside thing? That's this and this. Do all 4 parts to this. I'll pause for a second while you multiply this thing all the way out. Then I'll help you find the vertex once we get it all multiplied out. Okay, let's see how you did. You should have said x squared, and then this is 3x when you do the outside ones. And then this is 1x, which is the inside ones. So I would have put plus 3x plus 1x. Realistically, I would have just added them in my head and said plus 4x. But that's how you show your work anyway. And then plus 3. And now what did I forget to do? I forgot to multiply everything by -3. So I'm going to put this and then bring that down. And now I have to multiply everything by -3. First, I'm going to put these together and make it 4x, though, because it's just a lot cleaner to have a 4x right there. That came from the 3x and the 1x. So 4x, Mr. Server, plus 4x. Okay, now I'm going to multiply everything by -3. And I get -3x squared minus 12x plus, nope, negative times a positive makes -9. And there is my equation in standard form. That's one of the questions they sometimes ask. What is this in standard form? Okay, And now we have to find that vertex, the hardest part. Negative b over 2a is way better than just guessing and checking a bunch of points and figuring out which one's the lowest. It would work, but negative b over 2a is what x is. Always start with x equals on that. And then here's the negative b. Negative of negative 12 is 12. Can I just skip writing negative, negative? Sure. Over 2a, 2 times negative 3, and that makes 12 over negative 6, and that makes negative 2. That tells me that that would be the magic number to put in the chart. Negative 2 gives me my vertex. Kennedy, can you shut that door, please? Thank you. So you got a negative 2 going into this function. Now, some kids that are extra smart will say, I don't want to put it in here. This looks like I'm going to have huge numbers. So I'd rather put the negative 2 into this equation. And you can do that if you want to. You could put the negative 2 into either one of your equations and it will work. So if you'd rather put in negative 2 in the factored form, that's totally fine. So let's see what we would have if we put negative 2 in there, because I'm trying to finish off this vertex. So here's my negative 2 going in there, and I get negative 1 and positive 1, and I still have negative 3 at the beginning. So negative 3 times negative 1 for this part, and then this part was positive 1, and that makes 3. So the answer is 3. What do you mean the answer? The answer for the vertex here, I put in negative 2, I got 3. Okay, so that's the most important point, is the vertex. And then if you needed vertex form, you could just go y equals, and it always looks like this, and you just have to put in the vertex here and here from these two numbers. Okay, I think that's all the hints I want to give you. This is the part where I want to give you one-on-one help, so I'm going to post this video, and then the rest of the hour is working on that worksheet from U6L6. Saving.